Hello and welcome to Dollars and Cents presented by North Main Financial. I'm your host, Joshua Dobi. Thank you so much for hanging with us here, 4 o'clock hour on a Thursday. If you're a 9 to 5er, you got 53 minutes, 23 seconds until you get to that 5 o'clock bell. And I appreciate you spending that time with us here as we're giving attention to, and perhaps we'll even spark a little conversation regarding items of financial and economic importance. Now, you know, as a previous listener, we're talking on any number of subjects here. We're going to be doing it again here today. Going to be talking on specific companies. Some of them we're going to look at a little more favorable light. Sometimes, maybe not as favorable based upon where things are, what the most recent earnings reports are. But again, in doing so, you remember that nothing that we're talking about here is intended as a specific recommendation for you. Meaning that even though we're talking about companies, specific investment strategies, perhaps even investment styles, stocks and bonds themselves, that again, everybody's situation is unique. We strongly recommend you reach out to your tax advisor, your financial advisor, or if you'd like to reach out to us at North Main Financial Group, you can find us online, northmainfinancial.com. That's north like the direction, main like the street, financial.com. We have a contact page on there. Leave us your question, and we'll get to it. We'll contact you either via email or phone, whichever is most preferred for you. Make sure that we address it in the best ways. Again, at northmainfinancial.com. All right, let's go ahead and get into it here. We're talking on the markets, and I'll tell you what, if you are a student of the markets, it has been, I'd say, well, it's always interesting. People like me always think that it's interesting, but it's certainly been an interesting couple of weeks to take a look at where things are and the performance-wise, where things have moved. Certainly the noise coming out of the Federal Reserve, or maybe lack of noise, depending upon your perspective on it, and then with regards to the more, let's call it, hot money companies here recently, at least insofar as their stocks are concerned, what performance they have had, or lack of performance for many of them, or negative performance here over the last couple of weeks, several weeks now. It certainly has been very interesting. So we're going to get into a lot of that today. We're going to be talking about, where they are. What does that mean for the markets? What does that mean in terms of what has been hot to this point? And you probably wouldn't even know it based upon some of these news programs out there. There are parts of the market that are doing really well, that are well into the green, that are having very positive years here so far. But the news is getting dominated, and this happens all the time. The news is getting dominated by a couple of companies, several companies, maybe even a collection of companies that have done very well here over the last couple of years and have cooled off some. And but that is overshadowing what has been some very positive performance in other ends of the market. So we're going to get into that. We're going to talk more during today's show here on Dollars and Cents about some of those companies that have pulled back. But before we do that, I'm going to hit on a couple of notable announcements, I think, from companies that probably are pretty familiar to you. And if they're not, you might be able to get a little bit more familiar with them as we're talking about them here. First one I'm going to talk about has one of the best acronyms for ticker symbols that's out there. I've talked about them a couple of times, and I just think it's one of the best ones. It's really neat. Southwest Airlines goes by Southwest. Ticker symbol, wait for this, is LUV. It's right, love. That's it. I mean, their logo literally has a red heart associated with it. So LUV, one of the best ticker symbols. Ticker symbol, again, Larry Umbrella Victor. Not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold the stock or the bonds. Boy, they made some announcements this week. If you are one who flies frequently, and then specifically if you are one who flies frequently with Southwest, they have some a very large contingent of very loyal flyers, or folks who use them frequently. I know of many folks who only fly Southwest and do so because Southwest has done things differently through the years. They just have a different method of buying tickets and how they seat folks and the charges they have. And frankly, they are usually able to, for the routes that they fly, they are usually able to offer ticket prices that are notably less than what we sometimes call the legacy carriers. Legacy carriers, those that have been around for a very long time. Really, there are only three anymore. I'm looking at United, I'm looking at American, and I'm looking at Delta that have been around for a long time. Not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold any of those companies either. But Southwest has really made a name for itself as a company that offers tickets for flight that are notably less in cost in most instances than what we have from the legacy carriers. But that might be changing a little bit. Some of the announcements that Southwest has made here over the past week, I know have really, I'll say it, upset a significant number of folks who are Southwest Airlines loyalists. And specifically, it's because they're needing to increase some prices and they're needing to increase some costs. The biggest one, and this is coming from folks who fly Southwest, in my experience, who fly Southwest regularly, the biggest one is that they're going to start charging for check-in luggage. Not for everybody. There are a couple of bypasses with it. If you have their highest loyalty level, I know there's a way to bypass it. If you have a Southwest Airlines credit card, I think you can check one bag for free still. But for many folks, frankly, for most folks, they're going to start charging for checked baggage, and that was one of their real hallmarks. That was one of the ways in which they stood out, and they advertised that heavily as being one of the ways in which they stood out from the other carriers, in addition to having ticket prices that were notably less than what the other carriers had for similar routes. And now they're changing it up a little bit. That's going to be big. I'm going to be very interested to watch, and certainly you will as well if you fly Southwest Airlines with some regularity. I'm going to be very interested to watch how this plays out. I'm not saying they're going to change or reverse the policy, but there has been a lot of negative feedback, especially online, to my understanding, about this change in policy. The stock market loved it. I mean, it's going to be a boondoggle from a revenue standpoint, because it will increase notably the revenue for the company. The stock was up about 8% the day of the announcement. And that's big. That's a lot of movement in a short amount of time. So we're going to be watching that. Very interesting to hear from Southwest Air that they're going to be charging for check bags. Again, a couple of ways that you could still avoid it if you have their highest loyalty status or you have their credit card. I know there's a couple of ways to get around it there, but for most folks who are going to be flying, that's going to be happening here towards the later part of spring and the early part of summer. Very, very interesting. Along the lines of announcements. Kind of an interesting one here, and this one that you may not know who the parent company is. I think once I say the name of this particular label, you probably are going to be familiar with it, but you may not be familiar with the parent company. I'm looking at Ben and Jerry's ice cream. Now, if you're like me, I look at ice cream. I enjoy it. I don't have to have it. But when I have it, I really like it. And Ben & Jerry's has really kind of made a name for itself, almost in I would say different from the norm in terms of the flavors. I mean, you got all kinds of different flavors that Ben & Jerry's has, and different options that are available. It really made a name for itself. Anyhow, they were acquired here a number of years ago by a massive food conglomerate called Unilever, ticker symbol Umbrella Larry. And anyhow, they let go of the CEO. Unilever let go of the CEO of Ben & Jerry's. Very interesting. Not a whole lot of indication as to why, but kind of a big deal when you're talking about ongoing leadership at Ben & Jerry's. We'll see what that means. Does that mean they're going to be fewer flavors ongoing? I think that's what most folks want to know. Certainly that's what I want to know when it comes to Ben & Jerry's ice cream. All right, let's go ahead and take a break here as we hear from our sponsors. Back in a few moments here on Dollars and Cents at WSIC.
There's more of Dollars and Cents with certified financial planner Joshua Dobi on the way from 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Well, don't forget the rain gear heading out the door today. You won't need it a lot, but a couple of passing showers possible, mainly from midday into the afternoon. Some extra clouds and high temperatures a bit cooler in the mid and upper 60s for our Thursday. We'll go down partly cloudy tonight as temperatures fall into the low 40s for our Friday. Our sunshine is back, but it's a cooler way to end the work week. High temperatures in the low to mid 60s. We'll stay in the mid and upper 60s through the weekend. That's your forecast.
Testing. Yes, I can. Yeah, thank you.
WSIC app is out now, wherever you get your apps.
Just press the right button. Probably the blinking one.
Here's your WSIC community calendar. The Bet on Us Casino Night Fundraiser Gala is almost here. This black tie event, co-hosted by Absolute Hope Foundation and Hope House Foundation of Huntersville, supports local families in need. Join us for an unforgettable evening and learn how these organizations are making a difference in the community. Visit AbsoluteHopeFoundation.com for details. Thursday, March 20th is Ladies' Night at Bin 110 in Cornelius. Lake Norman Woman Magazine welcomes in the community for an evening of making new friends and catching up with your existing ones. Come on out for Ladies' Night this Thursday at Bin 110. Saturday night, the 500 Club in Statesville presents live music with Darren Deese. Deese is a Nashville recording artist who has been influenced by stars from Hank Williams Sr. to George Strait to Kenny Chesney. Enjoy live music at 6 p.m. Saturday at the 500 Club with a performance by country music artist Darren Deese. Come on out and meet the WSIC team on Saturday, March 29th at Snooze Mattress in Cornelius. We will be doing a Merlefest ticket giveaway, so stop by and sign up. We are looking forward to meeting you on Saturday, March 29th at Snooze Mattress in Cornelius from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. The Auto Fair presented by Camping World is back at Charlotte Motor Speedway Thursday, April 3rd through Saturday, April 5th. The show brings together the car community in a celebration of their shared passion for all things automotive. Don't miss the Heritage Invitational, where iconic cars from all eras are gathered for up-close viewing. Visit charlottemotorspeedway.com for Auto Fair tickets and more information. To keep up with all the events happening around the community and much more, including amazing local deals, download the WSIC News app today.
Merlefest 2025, presented by Window World, returns April 24th through the 27th in Wilkesboro, North Carolina. Hear the Avett Brothers, Bonnie Raitt, The Dead South, Watch House, Wyatt Floors, I'm With Her, Leftover Salmon, The War and Treaty, The Steel Drivers, and many more. For tickets, visit merlefest.org.
Dollars and Cents continues now. Here's your host, certified financial planner Joshua Dobi on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Hello and welcome back to Dollars and Cents presented by North Main Financial. I'm your host, Joshua Dobi. Thank you so much for hanging with us here. Second quarter of today's show, football reference. You got it. We're talking football. I know nobody's playing football right now. We got March Madness going on. We'll talk about that here in a minute as well with college basketball. And certainly we have Major League Baseball in full swing. We've got hockey going on right now, NBA. I mean, we got a lot of stuff going on, just not football right at the moment. But I'd just like to clarify again, and I know that we're doing this just about every week, but I'd like to clarify again in case anybody is wondering that it continues to be true this week, as it was true last week, that for this coming season, our Carolina Panthers currently, and this is true up to this moment, are on the exact same ground and possibility for winning the Super Bowl as every other team in the NFL. I would just like to, and for all my Carolina Panthers fans, I want you to be aware of that. And my Pittsburgh Steelers fans, I heard from you this past week too. I got to say, you're all worried about your quarterback. I know that, but I just like to clarify again that both teams equal footing to win the Super Bowl. Everybody starts 0-0. Nobody gets any bonus points for winning last year. All right, so keep the faith is what I'm saying. All right, let's keep going here. Let's talk about the Federal Reserve here a little bit. Had the meeting this week. They have 10 meetings, regularly scheduled meetings throughout the year. This meeting was really off the radar screen for most of the market because it was, I can't say it was foretold in advance, but it's foretold in advance. There's a little redundancy for you. Foretold that they would not be doing anything to rates during this meeting. The markets, the futures markets, definitely indicated that as well, and they didn't. So they didn't do anything to interest rates. Where the market paid attention to the Federal Reserve Board meeting, and where it usually pays attention, is to the post-meeting conference the post-meeting interview, I really should say. Not really a conference, really a discussion about what the thoughts were of the Fed board during the meeting, and then also to answer some questions from various reporters. So Fed Chair Powell did that in the normal ways, and that was really the focus point of the market because there wasn't any expectation that they were going to do anything during this meeting. However, the market is really interested on the possibilities of what the Federal Reserve may do here for the rest of the year. And I'll tell you, insofar as these kinds of interviews / question and answer sessions go, and I guess it's a good thing. This one was non-committal about every sense of the word. They really left open all of the possibilities in terms of what the board may do. Usually there is some nomenclature in there that gives a little bit of an indication about where they may be leaning. Certainly the markets, the futures markets specifically, and the bond market with treasuries is indicating at this point that there's still a belief by the market that the Federal Reserve is going to be cutting rates possibly later this year. at least once, possibly twice. If you're watching me on the socials here or the WSIC app, which, by the way, if you don't have that WSIC app, get on over there to the Apple Store, Google Store, download it. Easy way to listen to every single show here. I remember the Chief saying we got 35 hours of live content during the week. I love that stuff. And you can listen to it anywhere. You don't have to worry about the radio signal. Get on over there. That way, whenever you're traveling, you're in the car, it doesn't matter where you are, you can listen to us on the app. So if you're listening or you're watching me through the app specifically, because you can watch live on the video feed as well as listen, you can see by my body language, I'm not convinced that the Federal Reserve is going to cut rates at this point. And then perhaps more importantly, on my end of the world, I don't know that there's a reason to cut rates at this point. I know the market really, really likes that, and specifically the equity markets or the stock markets really, really likes when the Federal Reserve is in a cutting season, meaning cutting the overnight lending rate, which correspondingly trickles down through the system and allows for the possibilities of lower capital costs or lower capital expenditure cost that comes from financing. And so I know that's what the market really wants. Sometimes I think the market prices that in because of what it wants rather than what's really more practical. And I think that's a little bit about where we are right now. I think there's going to be some possibility that that the Federal Reserve does cut later on this year, but there was no indication in this week's meeting, by my standards anyhow. You may think differently if you had a chance to take a look at the transcript or listen to the Q&A process. I don't see where the board is going to be able to come to a space that they can justify a cut at this point. We have still very low, relatively speaking, unemployment. We just had new unemployment claim figures again here this morning, very much in line with, quote, normal in terms of the large number, about 223,000 new claims, which is very normalized in our current space. So I don't see the inflation is moderating. I can't say that it has moderated because, first of all, it's a fluid kind of thing. It's always in motion. But then also, it's closer to what normal is. If you look at it over the last 70 years or so, and I know we got real comfortable with hyper low interest rates and hyper low inflation here over the last decade and a half. I know that. But if you extend your lens a little bit deeper into history there, you're actually going to see that interest rates and inflation are very different from what we experienced here in the last 15 years. And meaning that inflation is notably higher, usually in that 3-4% range overall, and interest rates are notably higher, meaning it's very healthy to have a long bond in that 5% and frankly higher range than we had, with less than 1% on the long bond there for such a long time. So I'm saying all of that to hopefully provide some perspective on what the Federal Reserve has said here, and then with regards to what we can expect from the Federal Reserve for the rest of the year. I'd be surprised if we get a cut in interest rates. I know that doesn't encourage you if you're thinking about getting a new mortgage or you're thinking about buying a new home, you're looking at a piece of investment property relative to CapEx financing or capital expense financing kinds of things. I know that's not as maybe encouraging relative to those interest rates out there. However, I also don't see them rising much beyond where we are right now in this part of the cycle. I would be very, very surprised if we have rates higher than where we are right now, but I also don't see a compelling case for them to be lower at this point either. So I know, not too hot, not too cold. Maybe we're right where we're supposed to be. We'll see. It always plays out, whether we like it to or not. All right, let's keep going here with what we're seeing market-wise. Got to talk about these folks. I feel like we talk about them every week, and I know they were talking about them on Good Morning LKN as well, which, by the way, Justin, Bill, Mamie, 7 to 9, Monday to Friday. Make sure you're tuning into them as well. They always got stuff going on. And they got not only stuff that you need to know and stuff that's fun and certainly very connected to the community, but they also are going to make you chuckle as well. At least they make me chuckle anyhow. And that's not particularly easy to do. And I enjoy that. So every morning, 7 to 9, Monday to Friday here on WSIC. I know they were talking about this company also. Tough not to talk about them. Gosh, if you're touching anything that is AI related or artificial intelligence related, tough to do that with any kind of depth without talking about this company. Yeah, I'm talking about NVIDIA, one of the largest companies on the planet. Ticker symbol Nancy, variable Delta Alpha. It's again one of the largest companies, publicly traded companies out there. They had a conference this week. They do it every year, and in the last couple of years, I would say the market was overly exuberant. That's my take on it. about the kinds of announcements that were made by NVIDIA at this conference here over the last couple of years. This year, the market was, I would call it tepid at best. And folks, I think that's a good thing. I think that's a healthier kind of response. I mean, they announced a partnership with General Motors with regards to continuing to make the chips for driverless vehicles. They announced other strategic alliances and partnerships, and the market barely sniffed at it. And I'm thankful for that, because I felt like, this is commentary now, this is subjective, but I felt like there was just a little bit too much perfection that was expected insofar as anything that NVIDIA touched. And it's healthy to look at them in a way that says, there are going to be peaks and valleys. There are going to be things they do exceptionally well. Certainly there are, but they are not perfect. And I think that's important for the market to price them that way. Probably part of the reason why the stock has pulled back here over the last several weeks, that not because anything has really structurally or strategically changed in terms of their current earnings or ongoing outlook, but just folks taking some gains, I'm sure, who have held it for a while, but also because things aren't perfect. There is no perfection out there. All striving for it, never attaining it. And so that healthier reality, or that healthier perspective, I think is a good thing. So it was good to hear about the ways in which NVIDIA does continue to push into the AI end of the universe. Certainly they have a dominant position when it comes to the fastest and most powerful semiconductors in the world, which, by the way, just FYI, you know that NVIDIA is not in the manufacturing business. They're actually in the design business. They don't actually make the chips themselves. They actually have another party. Actually, Taiwan Semiconductor makes the majority of their chips. They just give them the design. And I say just because we're talking about other world kind of stuff that they're giving to them, but they don't actually make them themselves. I always thought that was kind of interesting, because when you think of semiconductor chips, most of the companies are design build, and they are just on the design end of things. Makes them even more amazing as a company. But again, good to hear from them. Obviously, dominant position. We're going to continue to watch them for new developments. I mean, AI continues to transform the universe. It seems like almost every day with new developments. But there's going to be a lot of stop-start, herky jerky kind of movement as we're making our way into understanding really what it all means. I mean, is it, we're going to have robots as friends? I guess in some sense we already do. If you're looking at these phones that we carry around, they're practically living things as they are. All right, let's keep going here. One more before we catch the break here in just a moment. Got to talk about this one. A lot of news about them, only because I think of its founder and CEO and how much he's been in the news. Yeah, I'm talking Tesla. Yeah, I'm talking Elon Musk. Ticker symbol Tom Sam Larry Alpha TSLA. Not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold the stock. Boy, have they had a rough go of it. Now they shot up, meaning Tesla stock shot up in unbelievable ways right around the election time, just doubled overnight kind of thing, and that's not normal. That's not healthy, especially for a company of that size. I mean, nothing had materially changed overnight, but I understand the implication, especially with Musk's involvement at the federal government level. Boy, is it pulled back though. I mean, kind of breathtaking. If you bought it around 400, you're feeling it right now, and I'm saying not in a good way. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about that after the break here. What does that mean for the company? What does that mean, in terms of the cars? There's a recall out there as well. Very interesting stuff. All right, we're going to take a break here. Hear from our sponsors as we hit the halfway point here on Dollars and Cents at WSIC.
Keep it right here. Dollars and Cents with certified financial planner Joshua Dobi will return shortly on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC.
Well, don't forget the rain gear heading out the door today. You won't need it a lot, but a couple of passing showers possible, mainly from midday into the afternoon. Some extra clouds and high temperatures a bit cooler in the mid and upper 60s for our Thursday. We'll go down partly cloudy tonight as temperatures fall into the low 40s for our Friday. Our sunshine is back, but it's a cooler way to end the work week. High temperatures in the low to mid 60s. We'll stay in the mid and upper 60s through the weekend. That's your forecast. The WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Hi. This is Bob McIntosh with the McIntosh Law Firm in Davidson. Since 1997, we have been committed to providing our clients with competent, caring, and experienced legal services. Learn more at McIntoshLawFirm.com.
Would you like to change your health situation? Improve your current health with a wellness consultation with me, Fred Lowry, pharmacist and doctor of natural medicine. I'll work with you to reach your individual goals. This includes a review of your current medications, supplements, diet, and lifestyle choices. This is a progressive way to improve your current health position for your future. Great for individuals or couples wanting to make improvement. Call me at Lowry Drug in Statesville, 704-873-2247.
Have you taken the Desco Challenge? The people have spoken. Desco is where the professional goes for electrical supplies.
Hi, my name is Randy. I'm a general contractor, and I always trust the products at Desco.
See for yourself at DescoInc.com.
Harrison's is the home of Work Western, and wow! For nearly 30 years, our family has been boots on the ground when it comes to work. We have the largest selection of in-stock boots in the Carolinas and the best workwear brands like Harriet, Carhartt, and Wrangler. Find us on Norman Station Boulevard in Mooresville.
Prioritizing your health is one of the best ways to take care of yourself. From routine visits to the joys of pregnancy to the illnesses that stop you in your tracks, Iredell Health System will be by your side. Learn more at iredellhealth.org.
Need a ride? iCats has you covered. Tuesdays to the VA in Salisbury, Thursday to Winston-Salem, and Fridays to Hickory. Plus, run errands every day around Iredell County for just $1. Visit rideicats.com.
Inspire your team and gallop to greatness. Our horses at Willow Equine are outstanding at working with people on leadership and team building skills, perfect for corporate retreats. Visit willowequine.com as you gallop to greatness.
If you're a builder and you haven't went to Little Shaver's Wood Shop, you're missing all types of lumber products, hard to find woods and paneling materials that are in stock and ready to help you conquer anything the job throws your way. Locally owned, Little Shaver's Wood Shop has a friendly, knowledgeable staff to get you in, out, and on with your day. Little Shaver's Wood Shop, 3301 Salisbury Highway in Statesville. Little Shaver's Wood Shop, LILshavers.com.
It ain't easy being number one, but we make it look good.
WSIC.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. Tesla is recalling Cybertrucks over a safety issue it's having trouble resolving. In its recall report to the government, the car maker estimates 1% of the roughly 46,000 pickups it's calling back have the defect that involves pieces of steel trim that could come loose. A consortium that includes tech and real estate investors as well as a private equity firm has reached a deal to buy reigning NBA champs, the Boston Celtics, for $6.1 billion. The takeover is not only the biggest NBA deal ever, surpassing the $4 billion deal for the Phoenix Suns in late 2022, it's also the largest ever sports takeover. Peyton Manning and a former YouTube executive are part of a group investing in Good Golf, a popular online golf channel. The $45 million investment will be used to build a management team and sponsor live events. Stocks are down between a fraction and 0.4%. I'm Nancy Lyons, Bloomberg Radio.
24/7 worldwide, non-stop.
WSIC.
Local starts here. Making your money make sense. Dollars and Cents with CFP Joshua Dobi on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Hello and welcome back to Dollars and Cents presented by North Main Financial. I'm your host, Joshua Dobi. Thank you so much. Hanging with us here. Second half of today's show, Football Reference, 25 minutes and 10 seconds until we get to that 5 o'clock bell. And I appreciate you spending that time with us here. We had a pretty robust first half of the show. We were all over the place. I mean, we were talking Ben and Jerry's ice cream. We were talking the Federal Reserve. I mean, we got a pretty let me say a holistic kind of show here. I mean, we definitely talk finance, right? But we also talk football. We talked about the Panthers still being on even ground for the possibilities of winning the Super Bowl. Everybody starts 0-0, still there this week, just like last week. And then we also talk, and this is one of my favorite parts, another word that begins with F. Food. You betcha. Got some good ones this week that I found out here. First of all, as I was doing some of my due diligence, I just enjoy it. And yes, I'm going to bring the financial aspects into it as well. But because we talked about Ben and Jerry's and letting go of their CEO, Unilever being the parent company for Ben and Jerry's, ticker symbol Umbrella Larry, not a recommendation. Buy, sell, or hold the stock or bonds. That may have been something that you didn't know. That's very often true with a lot of food labels. There really are about six-ish very large food conglomerates which own a tremendous number of items that you will buy in the middle of the grocery store. In the middle, I'm talking about the aisles. I'm not talking about the butcher shop, and I'm not talking about the dairy section. And although the dairy section, you could include that. And I'm not talking about the flowers or produce or anything like that. But when you're talking about the shelf-stable or frozen food section and parts of the grocery store, there are about six very, very large food conglomerates which own the majority of those labels out there. So even though there are hundreds, even thousands of different labels, they all have very similar, or I should say most of them have very similar parent companies. But I got to talk about this one. This, I don't see why I wouldn't have known about this, but I guess it's just not something that's been on my radar screen, that there is something out there called the World Food Championships. Now, I know there are all kinds of food competitions of all kinds, but what caught my attention, the reason why I was paying attention to it, is that the sandwich portion of that just won here, just in the last month or so, again at the World Food Championships, which I guess have their finals here in Bentonville, Arkansas at the end of this month as well. If you happen to be listening to this live broadcast or as of the time of this recording, that there's a finals, I guess the ultimate best. We're talking about hundreds, even like 1,500 chefs that go to this thing. Anyhow, what caught my eye was the sandwich that won, and the guy's a pit master. I mean, he does barbecue, and it was a combination of like a Cuban sandwich with brisket and pork and pickles, oh my goodness, did it look spectacular! So look it up, World Food Championships. The pictures online are spectacular. That's why I looked at it. I saw the picture of that sandwich, and the first thing, of course, I wanted to know is, okay, how do I get my hands on something like that? But very impressive, very, very impressive. He also had a fried chicken sandwich, a Korean fried chicken sandwich, I think it was, that also won an award. Spectacular. I can't think of anybody who has ever had fried chicken and said that was a bad experience, but allowing for it looks spectacular. All right. Let's keep going here. I'm going to pivot. We're going to come back to food in a minute, but I got to talk about this on the finance end of things. I mean, we're in an interesting time relative to valuations of sports franchises. Actually, I just heard on the Bloomberg Minute during the break there, they mentioned this as well. Certainly came across my radar screen. When we're talking about big league sports franchises, and I'm looking most specifically basketball, football, baseball, and I'm looking specifically at basketball here with the announcement that the Boston Celtics, who won the NBA championship last year, have won it several times here in the last several years, they were just sold to a new group, William Chisholm, who happens to be the CEO founder of a private equity firm, Symphony Technology, out on the West Coast there. He is leading a group. So there are a couple of dozen folks, I think, in his group. But he is leading a group that has purchased the Boston Celtics for, hold on. Just if you're not listening, you're going to want to listen to this. $6.1 billion. Over $6 billion for the Boston Celtics. Now, I got to disclose that the Boston Celtics are my NBA team from way back. I'm a Larry Bird guy, Robert Parrish, back in the 80s there. I mean, I grew up on the Celtics, Lakers, Pistons. It was fun. It was really fun to be a fan. Great time for NBA basketball growing up. So I got to disclose that. So I do have a very soft spot in my heart for the Boston Celtics. But $6 billion. It's just amazing. I mean, I remember when David Tepper, bought the Panthers, the Carolina Panthers here. Has it been 10 years? Has it been that long already? Not too far away from that. Anyhow, he paid $2.2 billion. Now, I know I'm going NBA, NFL, definitely not the same thing, but I remember that was the most expensive, I believe at that time, that was the most that was ever paid for an NFL franchise. And that was, it might have been close to 10 years ago at this point. But that $6 billion, the most money ever paid for a professional sports franchise, is over $6 billion for the Boston Celtics. I mean, just amazing. That doesn't even include the arena either. The arena, if you're familiar with how Boston, where the Celtics play is set up there, they actually share the same arena with the Boston Bruins, the NHL hockey team, and the group that owns the Bruins owns the arena. So that $6 billion is for the team. As far as I could tell, it's certainly not for the arena real estate. Maybe there's some other real estate involved, but it's not for the arena itself. So primarily for the team, $6 billion. Man, it's just amazing. You got to make a lot of money for that $6 billion investment to work well, I think. That's just my look at things on my end of the world. All right, let's keep going here. We're going to go into we'll come back into food, and I talk about this group a lot because they always have yummy things that are out there and different collaborations that they do with different companies. Both of these companies are publicly traded, so that's how I'm tying it into finance here. But otherwise, it'd be tough to find a correlation into the financial aspects of things. I'm looking at you, Krispy Kreme, which has, again, one of the best acronym ticker symbols out there, David, Nancy, Umbrella, Tom, DNUT. So what do you think they make? Well, you know what they make. Donuts. Anyhow, announced another collaboration. They're always doing this. I like that. Another collaboration, this time with a name that is practically ubiquitous when it comes to all things sweet, and that is Hershey. Ticker symbol Henry Sam Yellow, HSY. Not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold their stock or bonds either. In a collaboration. Now, I mean, if you think about it, right? Hershey, primarily known for chocolate, right? Certainly Krispy Kreme, known for donuts, chocolate on donut. I mean, good stuff here. Get a take on these three collaboration flavors, right? Chocolate salted caramel or caramel, depending upon how you pronounce it, cheesecake. Chocolate salted caramel cheesecake. Yeah, all of those things. Chocolate, salted, caramel, cheesecake, all together on a donut. Yes, absolutely. Then the second one, chocolate buttercream, a little more traditional. Right, chocolate buttercream kind of frosting, a little heavier on there. And then the last one, chocolate chip cookie donut. Yes, chocolate chip cookie dough. You see me, producer Reese. You know what I'm talking about here. I mean, we've had some strange ones on here where we've had things like pizza flavored cereals and things like that I wasn't excited about. I'm not a big sweets guy, but I'm excited here.
Yeah, this one makes sense.
I mean, it really does. I mean, I can see this, and you know how much I love coffee. I mean, I can see this, a cup of coffee, and one of these delights. Of course, I probably need to take a nap after I would eat something like that. I mean, holy smokes. But it sure does sound good, and I know it would taste really good going down. So Krispy Kreme and Hershey in a collaboration there. Got one more food item here, especially before we go to break. And this, I mean, you'll understand in a moment why it caught my eye. KFC, so the old Kentucky Fried Chicken. I have to say old because they don't go by Kentucky Fried Chicken anymore. They are known formally as KFC. KFC, by the way, not a publicly traded company because it's owned by a publicly traded company. Yum Brands, also one of the great ticker symbols out there. I mean, when you're thinking about food, restaurant, Yum, YUM, yellow, umbrella, Mary, not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold the stock on that end of things as well. KFC has come out with mashed potato poppers. Now, I took a look at these things as on a picture. Basically, what we're talking about are fried mashed potatoes. I mean, they look spectacular. And then they offer dipping sauces that they have their very famous gravy that they have there, where you actually dip these fried potato poppers into the gravy, and they have other sauces as well. My goodness. When I saw that, and I of course I saw that right after I saw the Krispy Kremes, then I thought, you know what I'm thinking. I could do the poppers, and then you finish it off with the Krispy Kremes, with the Hershey's toppings. I mean, shoot, I would. I need to take a nap for about 2 days after something like that. But sounds really good. KFC coming out with it again. Something else to catch the eye of the consumer. Consumer, 3/4 of our economy. Big deal. You always want to watch what the consumer's doing. All right, back here in a moment on WSIC.
Dollars and Cents with your host, certified financial planner Joshua Dobi, continues straight ahead on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Well, don't forget the rain gear heading out the door today. You won't need it a lot, but a couple of passing showers possible, mainly from midday into the afternoon. Some extra clouds and high temperatures a bit cooler in the mid and upper 60s. For our Thursday. We'll go down partly cloudy tonight as temperatures fall into the low 40s. For our Friday, our sunshine is back, but it's a cooler way to end the work week. High temperatures in the low to mid 60s. We'll stay in the mid and upper 60s through the weekend. That's your forecast. The WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Here's your WSIC community calendar. The Bet on Us Casino Night Fundraiser Gala is almost here. This black tie event, co-hosted by Absolute Hope Foundation and Hope House Foundation of Huntersville, supports local families in need. Join us for an unforgettable evening and learn how these organizations are making a difference in the community. Visit AbsoluteHopeFoundation.com for details. Thursday, March 20th is Ladies' Night at Bin 110 in Cornelius. Lake Norman Woman Magazine welcomes in the community for an evening of making new friends and catching up with your existing ones. Come on out for Ladies' Night this Thursday at Bin 110. Saturday night, the 500 Club in Statesville presents live music with Darren Deese. Deese is a Nashville recording artist who has been influenced by stars from Hank Williams Sr. to George Strait to Kenny Chesney. Enjoy live music at 6 p.m. Saturday at the 500 Club with a performance by country music artist Darren Deese. Come on out and meet the WSIC team on Saturday, March 29th at Snooze Mattress in Cornelius. We will be doing a Merlefest ticket giveaway, so stop by and sign up. We are looking forward to meeting you on Saturday, March 29th at Snooze Mattress in Cornelius from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. The Auto Fair presented by Camping World is back at Charlotte Motor Speedway Thursday, April 3rd through Saturday, April 5th. The show brings together the car community in a celebration of their shared passion for all things automotive. Don't miss the Heritage Invitational, where iconic cars from all eras are gathered for up-close viewing. Visit charlottemotorspeedway.com for Auto Fair tickets and more information. To keep up with all the events happening around the community and much more, including amazing local deals, download the WSIC News app today.
Merlefest 2025, presented by Window World, returns April 24th through the 27th in Wilkesboro, North Carolina. Hear the Avett Brothers, Bonnie Raitt, The Dead South, Watch House, Wyatt Floors, I'm With Her, Leftover Salmon, The Warren Treaty, The Steel Drivers, and many more. For tickets, visit merlefest.org.
Call now to speak with certified financial planner Joshua Dobi at 844-STUDIO-4. It's dollars and cents on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Hello and welcome back to Dollars and Cents, presented by North Main Financial. I'm your host, Joshua Dobi. Thank you for hanging with us here into the fourth quarter of today's show. Football Reference, 11 minutes, 55 seconds until you get to the 5 o'clock bell if you're a 9-to-5er, and I appreciate you spending that stretch run. Here, as we're talking about, we talked a lot about food there in the last segment. We do that a lot here. We talk about, lots of things, lots of words that start with the letter F. We got finance. We got football. We do talk a lot about football and food. We do put them all together, but they're all correlated to finance. That's why we call it dollars and cents. And certainly we want to bring things that are helpful and relevant to you, food certainly being among them. All right, let's keep going. I want to talk about this particular style of investment because it's really hit my end of the news wires and the news stories talking about it. They did a lot last year as well for exactly the opposite reason, and it bears a discussion point here. And we talk usually on the markets here in the fourth quarter. We also talk about investments and investment styles. Got to talk about this. They're called leveraged ETFs, leveraged exchange traded funds. Very simple definition of what they are. Generally speaking, they are index style funds that trade like stocks, but they are leveraged, which means instead of it tracking, say, the S&P 500 index, they buy or sell various derivative or options contracts to, I'm just going to call it casually, juice up the returns. Meaning that instead of just tracking the S&P 500, you might have a 2x leverage or a 3x leverage or a 5x leverage. And what that means is that that particular fund is designed to move 2 times, 3 times, or even as much as 5, even 10 times as much as the index moves on a given day. Now, last year, when there was a huge surge into some of the more aggressive leveraged ETFs, it was because, obvious reasons, they were doing very, very well with very aggressive holdings. Now, as we've had more negative volatility in the market, and some of these stocks are down 30, 40, 50% and more off of their highs, these leverage ETFs have been crushed. And by crushed, I mean, some of them are down 80, 90+% just in the course of a month. And so I'm bringing them to your attention here. I'm not saying them because leveraged ETFs are bad or wrong. Not doing that. I don't personally prefer them, but it doesn't mean that they're bad investments so long as you understand what they are. And there are some out there. I mean, there are some leveraged ETFs that track a single stock. And really what they're trying to do, obviously, is if you got something that's growing very quickly, they want to be able to 2x it, 3x it, 5x it, etc. on a day-to-day basis. And again, if you got something that's growing very quickly and you get 2, 3, 5 times the positive movement in a single day, well, of course. I mean, it can be very, very lucrative in a very, very short amount of time. But folks, think about it. That's also what happens in the inverse. So that when those things pull back, instead of pulling back as much as the stock or that index does, it's going to pull back twice as much, 3 times as much, 5 times, 10 times as much. Folks, you can lose a lot of money very, very quickly. And that's what we're starting to see happen. That some of these ultra aggressive leveraged ETFs are just getting pounded from a valuation standpoint because these things, a lot of these high flyers have pulled back off of the highs. So again, I'm saying it not because leveraged ETFs, in my opinion, are in and of themselves bad, but it's a very, very risky investment with, yes, a great possibility for reward, but also an equal amount of possibility for significant, if not near complete total loss in it as well. So you want to watch those things very, very carefully. If you're not aware of what they are, take a look at them. If you have them, just be aware of what you own. Make sure that you understand how they're put together. Understand the derivatives that they own. Usually there's some variation or style of options contracts on that particular stock, whether they're buying the call options or selling the put options kind of things, or other style of strategies that you can use with those to accelerate the amount of growth that you have when it's moving in a positive direction, but also goes in the other direction as well whenever things are pulling back. Just seeing a lot of news about how some of these leveraged ETFs are just being crushed right now from a valuation aspect of things. So I wanted to bring it up. Wanted to make sure you were aware of them. You may not be. It's a tinier end of the universe. It definitely doesn't have a huge amount of traction, but they've become popular, especially as some of these leveraged ETFs are tracking some of the most popular stocks out there, like MicroStrategy, NVIDIA, etc. That some of these are tracking even on an individual basis, not just indexes themselves. So just be aware of what they are. Understand a lot of possibility, a good possibility, but an equal amount of negative possibility as well. Make sure, you hear me say this all the time, make sure you know what you own. Don't just buy it because it's done well or your buddy likes it or you have a hot stock tip. Doesn't make them bad, but you got to understand what you own to know if it's right for you. Not necessarily for somebody else, but make sure that it's right for you. All right, that's a good, let's call it a segue point, but we're already there. Talking about the markets. Interesting, folks. Very, very interesting. It always is. I love watching the markets. Been doing it for, over 3 decades. Man, it's interesting because I'm 28 years old. I don't know how that can happen. I've been doing it for over 3 decades. But I love watching it. It's always interesting, but especially now, I think, because we're starting to see, I wouldn't even call it normalization, but definitely some cooling off in the more aggressive end of the stock universe. Also in the bond end of the universe, looking at treasuries, there's definitely been a rotation out of some stocks and into the treasury market in part, not completely. So it's not just the safety trade, but we're seeing yields pull back a little bit from where they were. We had yields on the 10-year treasury, the benchmark 10-year treasury. They were bouncing up around 4.8 here about 4, 5, 6 months ago. And now we're down closer in the 4.1, 4.2 range of things. So there's that rotation, so that moving into treasuries, right? Prices go up as the demand goes up, yields come down. And that's what we're seeing on that end of things right now. So that is an indication, yes, about folks moving out of the stock market, but also about where the bond market believes that rates should be. And so that's part of what's, I would say, partially what's helping to guide the Federal Reserve. Not completely, certainly, but definitely is in the mix of things about where the market is guiding rates as well. So it's been interesting on the equity end of things. And I said at the front end of today's show, I'm going to say it again, because you wouldn't know it to watch some of these shows, at least not the shows that I watch and that I track. Gosh, you'd think the market is all down. It's all negative because some of these most popular stock indexes are slightly negative for the year. Folks, there are parts of the market that are doing very, very well right now. Very well right now. You look at oil and energy right now. Not every oil and energy company. I'm not saying that. I'm talking sector by sector. But oil and energy sector right now, having a very good year. In some cases, even with the big oil companies, I'm looking at you, BP Amoco, ticker symbol Bravo Paul. I'm looking at you, Chevron, Charlie Victor X-Ray, are double-digit gains for the year. Now, they have been largely ignored here over the last 18 to 24 months. So you could say, well, it's more of a valuation play. They're undervalued, and so there's now some energy in the market, no pun intended, energy in the market to buy some of those because they're undervalued. Okay, I'll grant that. Certainly, I think that's in there. Certainly, as far as metrics for evaluating stocks are concerned. But certainly, it is true that those things that have been, at least some of those things, which have been ignored here over the last year or two, are more in play, meaning from a positive standpoint. And many of the high flyers that we've seen here over the last couple of years, those are the things that have been pulling back. So the technology sector, again, I'm looking at its sector, not every technology company, but looking at the technology sector has largely pulled back in significant ways from where it was off of its highs here about a month or so ago. And then we're seeing things like oil and energy doing very, very well. Financials definitely have cooled down, especially regional banks have definitely cooled down because of the uncertainty in the bond market right now and with regards to Fed policy for the balance of the year. It's going to be interesting to see if they bounce back a little bit, if the Federal Reserve Board continues to give indication about not moving real sharply to cut rates or to raise rates. Will that allow these banks, these money center banks, to get a little better valuation associated with it? Might. So yes, definitely have pulled back here in the last several weeks. I don't expect that that's going to continue to be the case, but that's where those are right now. And then I'm looking at pharmaceutical companies. Again, a traditional defensive play, not every pharmaceutical company, but generally speaking, pharmaceutical companies doing well. And then I'm looking at consumer product kinds of things. Consumer product companies like, let's say PepsiCo, ticker symbol Paul Edward Paul, not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold the stock or the bonds. Also having a good year. Again, when you're looking at Pepsi, just holding them out as an example, if you would look at their stock price growth since January, like, wow, that's actually a fantastic year. And you would be correct. But boy, if you extend that metric out to the last 2 or 3 years, Pepsi's been a miserable stock to own. So it might be the valuation play. It might be just that other parts of the market are so incredibly expensive. Looking at you, technology sector, and when I say that the money is going to look for better valuation play, I think that's definitely in the mix. I don't think that's the only reason. It's not that binary, but definitely in the mix, or the algorithm of understanding what the market is doing and for market performance. I think that's definitely in the mix. But it's also true, and you've heard me say this as well, that those things which have done well, I know this is going to sound elementary, are not going to perpetually do well every year. I don't care how good the story is. I don't care how wonderful AI is. I don't care who owns the market when it comes to autonomous vehicles or robotics or what. Things move in cycles. I know it, folks. I mean, yes, that means they go up and down. Yep. Nope. It's real. I'm not making that up. Check me on it. It's very, very real. And I say that, and I'm kind of chuckling a little bit here because you may be rolling your eyes and saying, well, of course I know that. But folks, the market does not play that way. The market thinks in straight lines, and we are the market. So when things are doing well, there's a huge piling into things that are doing well. And those things that aren't doing well are largely ignored. But that's not the way to do it. That's not the way to consistently do well in the markets. You got to know what you own, and you got to know why you own it. That's very, very important when you're looking at the markets, and understand market history, market tendencies. If things are doing very, very well, maybe take a little bit off the table. Maybe scrape some of those gains into something that's a little bit more conservative. There's nothing wrong with having a bird in the hand. Yes, you may lose some on the opportunity cost above that, but you also have your gains at that point. Nobody can take those away from you. Well, friends, I appreciate so much you hanging with us here on Dollars and Cents, presented by North Main Financial, here on WSIC, Thursdays at 4, as we're talking about all things financial, maybe even a little football and food along the way. Come back with us next week here on WSIC.
Serving you better than ever before. WSIC, Statesville, W290DK Mooresville, W260